Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome to Uncover California. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently. I want to get into it with you guys about what's going on with the corruption in our government being discovered by Elon Musk and DOGE. After that, we're going to bring in a guest who I've been dying to have on the show for quite some time, Enrique Tarrio. And as you guys know, I don't let go of J6. I think that it was a narrative that they needed to push. Enrique went to jail for years, and he wasn't even in D.C. So I want to talk about his story, and that'll be on the second half. But today, right now, I want to discuss what we have all been seeing. For instance, the Democrats held a press conference today. Their panties are in a wad because they don't like seeing what Elon and the DOGE team is discovering. We've known for decades that there's been fraud and abuse in our system. And what people need to understand is our country's going bankrupt. We pay more on the national debt than what we're bringing in. We pay more toward our national debt interest rates than the whole Department of Defense gets. And they haven't even started auditing that yet. If you guys have been here a while, you know that one of my biggest things has been the border and the trafficking of children. And one of the things that we're seeing with the USAID payments are a lot of these NGOs that have gotten billions of dollars to traffic children, Catholic Family Services, Jewish Family Services, Lutheran Charities. These are the NGOs that have been down in the Darien Gap, trafficking children. And little did we know, lo and behold, we are now seeing where that money came from, and that is USAID. So these NGOs have made money invading our country. And at the same time, they're profiting off of the suffering of human beings and the trafficking of children. The other waste that they have found, and understand one thing, DOGE can go in and find this waste, and he is a staffer for President Trump, and President Trump has given an executive order, put this together because he was elected on finding fraud and cutting the spending and getting this country under control. And it's exactly what I voted for. So when Democrats sit out there and they say, oh, this is a threat to our democracy. No. Why would you guys want to continue spending this money on the things that you've been spending it on? And let's just get into a few of these things. If you guys don't follow Mike Benz on X, I would highly recommend you do. He's been talking about this for years. He calls it the blob. He believes that our CIA has also been funneling off of USAID. Now, it's not fun to talk about, but our country, if we don't like some regime in a foreign country, we will use tactics in order to do a color revolution to oust a leader of another country and put another one in place. We, I believe, faced this in 2020. Actually, I think it goes all the way back to 2016, the minute Donald Trump came down the escalator. And we'll talk about that as we go through this spending. But I believe that we in America faced a color revolution. And the reason I think that we did is those that have been spending this money, this bureaucracy, this fourth branch of government that I have talked about for a long time, has more power than our elected officials, and they don't like being defunded. I also have a question. Congressmen, senators that go in making a six-figure salary, how do they end up leaving office with tens of millions of dollars? I think a lot of this money has also funded back into their own pockets, and that's the only reason that Democrats are complaining today. Let's talk about really quick how President Trump has offered workers that aren't coming to work, that haven't come to work for 5 years, a retirement settlement, and you've got these activist judges all over the country trying to stop this from happening. Understand this, the union bosses, if they go from 17,000 employees down to 1,000 employees, guess what? Their union dues are going to be cut dramatically. And not only that, these unions are who support these Democrat campaigns. That is why the Democrats are upset. Has nothing to do with the corruption that's being found or unconstitutionality. What it has to do with is fraud, abuse, and them lining their own pockets. Well, President Trump is giving the country back to the American people. So let's just take a minute and talk about some of these abuses that have taken place. For instance, did you know that 7.9 million went to Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language? What is that? You know, this whole binary, non-binary crap started at us when Joe Biden took office. The pronouns, the she, the her, the they, the them. It's complete stupidity and it's Marxism. And for some reason, the USAID has been spending money on that, and it should not be. Did you know that we spent $20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq? Hey, listen, I like Big Bird, I like Ernie, I like Bert, but I don't want to give $20 million of our money when we've got people in North Carolina that have been ignored. Oh, and let's talk about FEMA paying $59 million to keep illegal aliens in hotels, which is now proven, which the Democrats denied. And in the meantime, American citizens are suffering. That is not the way our country is supposed to work. Let's talk about the $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. You guys, this is what we faced in America and why I think we had a color revolution here at home. They censored us for not speaking the narrative. They censored us during COVID. They censored us during the Hunter Biden laptop. Anytime we spoke truth, Facebook jail for 30 days, to the point I was banned from Instagram, Facebook, the former Twitter, same time, same hour, and they took my business pages to punish me, but now they're stuck with me here. Let's talk about the $1.5 million for art for inclusion of people with disabilities. Now, I'm all for helping people with disabilities, but I am not for some art inclusion. What the heck what does that mean? What does that mean? It's beyond my mind what that could possibly mean. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. Why are we paying for sex changes in Guatemala? That is not my tender. What could have we done with that money here at home? The people of East Palestine that are stuck with poisonous water. Why aren't they getting those sort of funds? $2 million might go a long way there to clean up the water sources, to clean up the homes that have toxins in the walls. But no, they get $700 from the Biden administration. I do want to make clear, though, this isn't just Democrats. The Republicans have turned a blind eye to this wasteful spending as well. And once this is discovered, it does have to go to Congress to have all of these fees pulled back. So just because Elon's fighting it doesn't mean it doesn't have to go to Congress and the Senate. It does. And I call on every American to watch how your congressman and Senate vote on rescinding this money to all these crazy, crazy things. Let's go on. $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. What does that mean? That we're going to have a bunch of Karens with blue hair all over the world that are screaming and crying because they're not getting their way, and their Munchausen's by proxy doesn't get pushed forward because their kids are kicking and screaming on the ground because mom and dad want to cut off their body parts. What does that mean? Feminist democracy. These people didn't even stand up for women when men were entering our locker room. So don't want to hear it from you? defund it. It's interesting, too, to know now Politico, who's been probably the conservatives' worst enemy, the BBC, NPR, all these organizations are funded by the U.S. government, this bureaucracy, this tentacle octopus that reaches into every aspect of society. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, this is a real goodie. Super fun. $10 million worth of USAID funded meals to Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists. At what point are we, as American citizens, funding the enemy? It doesn't make any sense at all why we would fund the enemy that wants us dead. So, Democrats, please explain this to me. Rhinos, please explain to me, the American taxpayer, why you were spending money giving it to terrorists that want us dead. Doesn't make sense, although you did open the border and let them all come through, so it's not that shocking. Let's go on to $25 million to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia. So we got the green news scam reaching out even further. And I think we all know now it doesn't work. These windmills with lithium batteries that are non-biodegradable don't produce enough energy. We need to drill oil. And we also know those that drill oil, actually, it does give you a lot of power. Why are we paying $6 million for tourism in Egypt? I think that if we were to fix up our own cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, the people that just suffered fires, and stopping bureaucrats from making $500,000 for 3 months to look into fixing the fires, we could get a lot further. The money needs to go back to the people. I think those of you that need to rebuild your homes in the Palisades could do a lot with $6 million towards your efforts for cleanup. And I think you would spend your money a lot better than these organizations. Let's talk about $2.5 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam. What the heck? Or $16.8 million for a separate inclusion group in Vietnam. Seems like Zelensky's rules for radicals just keeps expanding. They want it worldwide. Why do they want this? They want it so they can control you. They want to control you. They want you to be serfs. They don't want you to run your own life. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in a constitutional republic. They believe that they are your leaders. They will spend your money where they want to. They have no accountability to you. And too bad if you don't like it. Well, the blinders are coming off, and I stand 100% with DOGE. This one, to me, made me sick to my stomach, especially after the lies that we faced. $53 million to Eco Health Alliance, one of the key NGOs funding bat viruses at the Wuhan lab. That was COVID-19, folks. Remember, our government told us, oh no, it came from a wet market. We had people die alone. We had doctors destroyed that spoke up against the narrative. Peter Daszak, Anthony Fauci, who's worth what, 300 million now? You guys, that virus, I believe, was a part of the color revolution to take down President Trump. And can I back that up 100%? No, but you know what? I got a really good gut and I tend to go with it. I've been saying it for years. President Trump had our economy booming before COVID hit. And then all of a sudden, we're coming to an election year and this virus mysteriously comes out of China. The media gets on this narrative. They put the death ticker up and they lied to you. They lied to you about where it came from. Anybody that questioned it was censored and put in a memory hole. People died alone. They put sick people into nursing homes because they didn't care if you died in order for them to gain power. And that's what this is all about. Let's talk about how they withheld early therapies from the American people. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine became banned in big words. And if you even mentioned it, you would be banned. They lied to you while funding this lab with gain of function research. It's absolutely insane. let's talk about the $20 million for a group related to a key player in the Russiagate scandal. Samantha Power was at the head of USAID, and she was neck deep in Russiagate. Let's also talk about the impeachment. Remember impeachment 1, where Biden said, if you don't fire the prosecutor looking into my son, you don't get the money. And all President Trump did was ask about that because he knew that the Biden family had fraud. And this guy, Eric Chiamella, who was the whistleblower, who you're not allowed to say his name, came out and said that President Trump's call was inappropriate. And when we got the transcript, we saw that that was a lie. They tried to overthrow a president of the United States using our tax dollars. And last time I checked, that's called treason. I want people held accountable. If we let them get away with what they have done, this never ends. I don't care if it's a Nuremberg trial 2.0. I don't care if it's one by one. It needs to be extremely transparent. But this is why they're panicking, guys. And thank you, President Trump, for removing all of their security clearances. It was a coup on the president of the United States that started in 2016 because he was surrounded by the deep state. Not this time, guys. We're going to get this through. We are not going to allow these people to do this to this country anymore. In Congress, senators, we are counting on you to revoke all of this. It's up to you. 1.1 million to an Armenian LGBT group. Why are we trying to make the world gay on our tax dollars while we're borrowing the money from China to do so? And understand the value of our dollar keeps going down. Interest rates keep going up because we're borrowing money to give it to foreign countries. It doesn't make any sense. $1.3 million to Arab and Jewish photographers. Now, I can understand going into a war zone, how dangerous that is, and these photographers need to be paid. However, why aren't their own governments paying them? Why are we? Let's talk about the $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. Again, why is the United States of America trying to push sexual ideology on the rest of the world? Color revolutions, folks, what they do is they create divisions, they push things on people to destabilize nations and to control a nation. That's what this is about. $1.5 million to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem. Last time I checked, Cuba was a communist country. But now that we know that NPR and Politico and all of these news organizations are funded, it doesn't surprise me that they may have been the propaganda wing in Cuba all along. So defund it. $500,000 to solve sectarian violence in Israel. This happened 10 days before Hamas did the October 7th attack. Think about that. We gave Hamas money before the attack. Are there people in our government that didn't care if Israel was attacked? Did they want war in the Middle East? I don't know. But the Biden regime let all of this run ruckshot. And to be fair, our Republicans in the Senate and Congress have as well. $2.3 million for an arsenal of small-scale gold mining in the Amazon. I thought that we wanted the Amazon jungle untouched. I thought climate was important. Although you guys did destroy the jungle in the Darien Gap with hundreds of thousands of tons of trash, and you didn't care about that. You don't care about climate change. Another weapon of control by the deep state. How about the $5.5 million for LGBT activism in Uganda? Again, why are we pushing sexual ideology worldwide on our tax dollars while we're borrowing the money and putting our children and great-grandchildren in debt? Pull it back. Stop spending the money. $6 million for advancing LGBT issues in priority countries around the world. Again, they've taken this worldwide, and remember what they've done to us. $6.3 million for men who have sex with men in South Africa. Why are we paying men to have sex with men in South Africa? And I do want to talk about the genocide, which is actually happening in South Africa against the white farmer. They're stealing their land and they're brutally murdering them, yet our media is silent on that. It's absolutely disgusting. And instead, we're paying for men to have sex with men. $8.3 million for USAID education for equity and inclusion. And let's not forget, guys, this is Marxism. That's all it is. They're doing this to destroy countries so they can bring in their new world order. Let's talk about the $70,000 for the production of a DEI musical in Ireland. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Take it out of every program in the United States. It is a joke, and it's divisive, and it is reverse racism. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. We don't have charging stations here. This is kind of a funny story. I actually have a loaner car right now because I found out these rats chewed through my wires. And I got this electric loaner car. It was a joke. I charged it all day, overnight. And after I had done that, I got 11 miles. So I decided, I'll go to one of those super charging stations. I had to drive down to Target and plug it in. I went into Target. I killed about an hour thinking, it'll be fully charged when I got out 5 miles. Needless to say, I turned that vehicle in. UVs are a joke. I'll never own one. So again, we're again spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for a nonprofit linked to designated terrorist organizations. And this is even after the Inspector General launched an investigation, which was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Funding to print personalized contraceptives, birth control devices in developing countries. Okay, so does that mean Ralph embossed on a condom? Or I don't understand. Are the women with birth control pills going to have their names on it? What are we spending money on there, guys? Hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've known about this one for quite some time, even back to the Iraq wars, to fund irrigation canals, farming equipment, and even fertilizer to be used in support of unprecedented poppy cultivation to produce heroin in Afghanistan. So does that mean, with everything that's going on, is the U.S. government the biggest heroin pusher in the world? It's looking like it, folks. Let's stop that as well. They are using these tactics in America. USAID has also paid for your BLM riots. They have paid. I would really like someone to look into their connection with Arabella LLC, which I've talked about on the show before. They've been funding Soros organizations. So they're burning down cities, having people abused. People like Patrice Cullors is, buying $1 million mansions around the world. And our USAID has been funding BLM. That is not my tender. I think our forefathers would turn in their graves. Also, as I talked about before, they have funded Jewish family services, Catholic family services. And you guys know that we've talked about this with the president of Border Patrol on this show, with J.J. Carroll, who used to be the border chief in San Diego, with Oscar Blue, who's been through the Darien Gap 5 times, that basically they use these Catholic family services as NGOs to fund human trafficking of children. So again, it's sick. USAID's climate strategy outlined a $150 billion whole-of-agency approach to building an equitable world with net zero greenhouse gas emission for decades. USAID bureaucrats believe they were accountable to no one, but that era is over. President Trump is stopping the waste, fraud, and abuse. If you guys want to look into more of this, please go to www.usaspending.gov. And you guys, stay tuned. Enrique Tarrio is coming on next, and let's talk about the weaponization of government with him. You guys, you got to do your due diligence. Don't believe the Democrats with their hair on fire right now saying this is a constitutional crisis. Them spending this kind of money against the taxpayers' will is the constitutional crisis, and that ends now. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back to Uncover California. You know, I've been following this guy for quite some time, even before January 6th ever happened. Back when Antifa was attacking people in Oregon and Washington State, Enrique Tarrio was called a white supremacist because he was the head of the Proud Boys. Well, Enrique did not go to January 6th. He did not go to the Capitol yet. They sentenced him to 22 years, and I'm excited to have him on. Enrique Tarrio, welcome to Uncover California. I am so blessed to have you on, brother, and I'm so happy you're home.
I'm so happy to be on your show, Lori, and I've been following you for a long time, and I'm very thankful. I'm not going to say for supporting me, because you've supported me through this whole thing, for supporting the truth, right? Because that's really what it boils down to. If you support the truth, then you support all J6ers, all 1,600 of us. But again, I thank you.
You're welcome. You know, my following you kind of goes back before January 6th. I just remember watching, I live in California, so we get Antifa out here and have had to deal with those nutbags. And, you know, I remember going back when there were church services in a park in Portland, and I didn't really know who the Proud Boys were, but you guys always seem to show up and protect the public. That is kind of how I knew who the Proud Boys were, and I was rooting you on back then, even with what happened in Washington State with Antifa, because it seemed like the government was not doing anything about the violence, but you did. How did you get involved in all of that? What made you step up to defend the public from Antifa and other organizations?
So let me separate this into two categories, right? The first category is the Proud Boys, and you know, as you saw, the protection of people. Now, it doesn't come because we're like some type of security force or some type of militia or anything like that. The goal of the Proud Boys is to make better men, right? And as we make better men, we make more protective men over, you know, women, children, just your run-of-the-mill Trump supporters. We don't like seeing what happens. And my guys, even if they're just attending an event and they're not in their black and yellow colors, you will always see them jump to the front if there's an issue, because it resonates with the culture of our club, right? And me personally, why I got involved is because I saw that. I saw these issues going on in our country. It's not a political movement that I saw. I saw a cultural movement that I saw the issues coming from a long time. And I've actually been doing this for a long time, all the way back since 2004. I worked the second George Bush campaign, and I've worked every general, midterm, and special election since then. But I saw a huge problem coming in 2016. It was this battle of the cultures, which culture was going to win. Obviously, the president won in 2016. And then we saw it again in 2020, which culture was going to win. And then we saw Donald Trump win again. But then
Right.
we saw the stolen election, and that brought issues. And I'm actually thankful for that stolen election because it gave America 4 years to see what a tyrannical government really looks like. So there's been, and 2024, I'd say, is probably like the biggest cultural shift that I've ever seen in any political movement since I've been born and reading into history since historical books have shown. I think President Trump, I think, is the best president since George Washington. I think he's going to do a lot of great things in 4 years, but that's why I joined.
Well, and look at what we're finding out now, Enrique. We see USAID was paying BLM.
Yes.
I believe that our country in 2020 faced a color revolution. I believe that the CIA has done this all over the world where they take down regimes, and they didn't like that President Trump was pointing out their crimes. And it was death by a thousand cuts. And even now we know the USAID was funding the Wuhan lab and Eco Health Alliance. I think that our economy was booming and Antifa was on the warpath. I remember even at the White House where Antifa was there beating up people like Rand Paul. They
Yes.
attacked Dan Bongino, and yet the Proud Boys would step up and defend them. So you guys became public enemy number one to the deep state, it seems.
Yeah. We were because we were scary to the deep state and we were scary to the establishment because we're not elected officials. We didn't work for the federal government. We represented the people, and we
Right.
represented an uprising and an anger that the people had against, the establishment. I'm not going to say government, but the establishment. 'Cause
The
I do believe-
bureaucrats, this invisible fourth branch of government.
Yes, yes. And they thought they had it in the bag for X amount of years before Trump came in. And then came these regular dudes that are, I got a lot of my brothers here tonight. We're celebrating the release of the 1600 J6ers. And I think the fear that they had was that the people were finally fighting back.
Yes.
We finally fought back, and we finally took over the culture. The culture wars, the left has beat us. I mean, 9 ways from Sunday. And I believe that the Proud Boys were scary because we're regular, everyday Americans.
Yeah, and I thank you for everything that you've done. Even though you're this big white supremacist, according to CNN and USAID paid Politico, it's just ridiculous, the narratives and the censorship that we all faced back in those days. And I believe those days are over. So, I've talked to your mom, who is just such a lovely woman and somebody that really had your back through all of this. You didn't go to January 6th. You were not at the Capitol. You were told not to come. You did not come. Mm-hmm. Why did they come after you, Enrique?
Well, let's start with on January 4th, I was arrested for burning a Black Lives Matter banner on December 12th, a month before. I came into DC knowing pretty much that I was going to get arrested. That's why I kind of flew into on January 4th. DC is a no bail district, meaning I knew I was going to get out January 5th. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go attend the Trump speech, which was the plan. The plan was to attend Trump's speech and just listen to him speak. And I wasn't there. And at the end of the day, I was kind of happy I wasn't there because I'm like, well, I'm happy I wasn't there because I'm not going to get charged with trespassing, which is what I thought was going to be like the highest charge for January 6th defendants at the time. I'm like, well, they can't catch me for trespassing. February 12th, a lot of people don't know or remember this. On February 12th, the FBI did a press conference, and actually we're watching it today. And they asked the FBI what they did to prevent the events of January 6th. Their first response to that question was that they arrested Enrique Tarrio, 2 days prior. They admitted to working with local law enforcement to arrest me before January 6th. They also leaked information about this whole FBI informant. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
So they leaked it in a way where we found this out through trial. They were scrambling to see how they could take out the Proud Boys. And then they leaked this document. And I've on January 27th, it did cause some pandemonium within the organization, but it wasn't a secret. It wasn't, that was something that I talked about on my podcast numerous times before. It has nothing to do with the 2020 election. This was something that happened in 2013. I was a security contractor for 12 years. So it's a mixed bag of nuts. We could have a whole show on that. But I wasn't there. And then a year and a half later, they find this document, and you get ready for the name of this document. It's called the 1776 Returns. Right. And they made it sound so ominous. Right. And I should have been exonerated just by reading this document. This document's not even nefarious. Like it sounds nefarious, but all it is a plan to do a sit-in. Right. I never opened this document. The government didn't allege that I opened this document, but they did use it to indict me. So already the indictment was illegal. Because of this alone, I should be exonerated. There is no way in hell I would ever make my guys do a sit-in.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to get a group of grown-ass men and walk into a building and lock arms and sing Kumbaya and sit on the floor and just wait till the cops pull us out.
No super glue to the cement for you?
That's never going to happen. My guys would kick me out in a minute if I even suggested to do a sit-in. It is too cringe for my guys to do that. We protect Trump supporters. That's fine. My guys are rough around the edges. They cuss like sailors. They're not everybody's cup of tea. I'm okay with that. But to accuse me of organizing an insurrection by planning a sit-in, never
and
happened.
they charged you with seditious conspiracy, didn't they? And you probably got the longest jail sentence out of anybody. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. And I prayed for you and a lot of my other friends that got caught up in J6. And I was shocked that they would give you 22 years. How many years did you serve in prison for nothing? And as far as your court, with Brady material, did they withhold evidence that would have cleared you?
They did. They refused to. We didn't find this out till after trial was over, but they refused to release documents of other law enforcement agents that were on the ground that day with the Proud Boys. We find that out later, much later. But I'm sorry. What was the original question? The first part of the question.
Well, just that they hit you with the maximum penalty, seditious conspiracy.
Yes.
And did they hide evidence that would have cleared you?
Yeah. So you asked really how long did I do? And I think I fared better than a lot of the guys because I was only in for 3 years.
That's 3 years of your life.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that have been in for 4 years.
Right.
I did get the longest sentence. I got 22 years. The person behind me was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Ethan and Stuart Rhodes at 18 years. Am I right about that? Is there anybody between me and Ethan? Dempsey. Oh, Dempsey. David Dempsey, he got 20 years. So I was still 2 years above anybody else. I mean, these are ridiculous sentences. 4 years is too much.
Right.
I don't think anybody would argue, any J6er would argue that, all right, you know what? You got to hit me with trespassing. Fine, hit me with trespassing. But that's not what happened here.
No.
So they went overboard. We saw that with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled in our favor throughout the obstructing official proceeding. But sedition is one step under treason.
Right.
Right. The sedition charge comes back to goes back to the 1400s, and it was because they couldn't hit political opponents with treason, so they created sedition. Now, John Adams, our second president, passed the Sedition Acts, right? and the Supreme Court found them unconstitutional. Plus, they didn't renew. And then they created another version of sedition after the Civil War. And sedition is a very serious crime.
Yeah.
It's not to be taken lightly. And when you charge somebody, you got to be 100% sure that this person committed an act of sedition.
Well,
and
see, if you ask me about sedition and treason, we saw it in 2016, 17, 18 with Russiagate and the impeachment hoax. They did everything they could to take down an American president, which was a coup. And at the same time, I think January 6th, they rejected the National Guard. I think that they planned it. I think it was an inside plan. And I think, again, it was to make sure that President Trump could never run again. But it was also to threaten the American citizen that if you stand up to us, we're going to destroy you. And the Democrats prospered off of January 6th well more than the Republicans ever did. Ever. Yeah. So go on. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And then look, these people that tried to assassinate Trump, obviously, we're not going to hear the story from one of them. But the other guy, the guy from down here that tried to shoot him at the golf course, obviously he's charged, I think, with like attempted murder and a couple of other charges. What he did was an act of sedition.
Yes.
Right. And it goes down to the very core of that law, and he's not even charged with sedition. So if he can't be charged with sedition, how are you going to charge? Forget about me. There's a whole array. The Oath Keepers went through this too, and my four, I'm still a little institutionalized, so I call them my co-defendants. My brothers that were charged with me. You're not going to charge that guy with sedition, but you're going to charge a bunch of dudes that just walked into the Capitol with sedition. We didn't even have any charges of violence,
right?
And I've said it multiple times. Like, I don't condone putting hands on an officer, right? And then the I guess the follow-up question to that is, well, how did President Trump pardon all these violent rioters? It wasn't the acts that he pardoned. It was the process that we went through.
Right.
It wasn't a jury of our peers that judged us. It was a jury of our anti-peers that judged us. I just made that word up, but
your enemy.
You get me? Like, I wouldn't wish that. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But at the same time, I do want, and I'm going to use this word. You know what? I'm not going to use it cautiously. I want retribution. I don't want violence with that retribution. I want investigations. Those people that made, you've spoken to my mother before. Those people that made her suffer.
Yes.
Those people need to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Those people need to pay for what they did. And they need to pay exactly by the means that they did to me. They put me in solitary confinement for 3 years, kept me on a bus. I went to 40 different prisons. Those people need to pay for the crimes that they committed and the suffering that they caused my family.
Right. Well, and they didn't give you a fair trial, just like, talking to John Strand. John Strand didn't get a fair trial, and he was there as a bodyguard. And instead of playing an entire video where he was cheering on the police, they got him with his hand up and said that he was attacking the police. Yes. I still believe to this day, if they didn't shoot munitions into the center of the crowd and tear gas and rubber bullets, the crowd wouldn't have moved forward. They created a panic.
If you see some of those videos, and we did get to see a lot of those. So those munitions, I've worked in the security field for a very long time.
Right.
Those munitions are supposed to be used for the front of a crowd.
Right.
Right. Because that's how you push the crowd back. We actually had a professional witness come and attest to how crowd control works. On those videos, what you're seeing is that these people are shooting rubber bullets and pepper balls and tear gas into the back of the crowd, sometimes even forcing them to push forward. We saw a gentleman with a hole through his cheek. Mm-hmm. He wasn't at the very front. But I think what they did is they kicked the pit bull's cage by doing that. They saw an already explosive situation and they made it worse.
Right.
The Capitol Police right? Let me not say Capitol Police because there are some very good Capitol Police officers. Those officers that were there that day that fired those munitions into the crowd, that is why January 6th happened.
Yes.
It wasn't because they said I was the planner, the head organizer, the ultimate leader. I mean, they use all this thing and it sounds so cool. I have to admit to the prosecutors that are watching this, your story sounded so cool and made me sound 100 times cooler than what I am. But it's simply not true
Right.
because I'll tell you this. I didn't plan it, but if I would have, it would have been successful. I
Well,
don't
and
want
that's the thing. If it was truly an insurrection, guess what? They would have taken the house. People
Yes.
would have been armed. Nobody was
Yes.
armed. It was absolutely ridiculous. As far as now, is it true? Are there still J6ers being held and the pardons are being ignored, or is everybody out?
Up until I think it was today or yesterday that they released one of the six. So I think we still have five that are in. But beyond the five, there's a couple of individuals that still have the charges from when they raided their house and they found like either guns or drugs or some type of thing. When the president pardons and the original arrest warrant was signed based on those charges that the president pardoned, then those other charges have to be thrown out. And we're
Right.
seeing a Department of Justice now under the helm of Pam Bondi, so things will change. And the U.S. Marshals are illegally holding five individuals in prison. Those individuals must be released. Jeremy Brown must be released as soon as possible.
Yeah, it
And as soon
shocks
as
me.
possible means yesterday.
Yeah, it shocks me because a pardon is supposed to be immediate. And I really wonder if President Trump knows that his pardons are being ignored and the fact that they are still arresting people to this day.
Yes.
I don't know if he needs to redo this pardon or if there's holes that need to be filled in, but these judges and these prosecutors that have basically abused their power, I think that they should do the time that you did.
I agree with you 100%. And if they are not released soon, I think that people should start um, protesting outside these jails and prisons.
Yeah. Aren't they
Okay, we
moving
need
them
to start
around?
doing something because I was there for 3 years. Okay, so these people are going through hell right now, knowing that we're out here, we're free, and that they should be free with us, and they should be free with us. And I
Hmm.
think that if we keep seeing this, um, I'm not going to put a time on it, but I will start calling on people to stand outside that jail and protesting. Those five, I believe they're in five different jails, but we will be standing outside of it. One of them is USP Atlanta, which is what's the place, the hellhole that's holding Jeremy Brown at this current moment.
Does President Trump know that people are still being held? Do you know?
I have no idea. I know the president is, as we've seen, the president's extremely busy. I'm pretty sure that if we're loud enough, that he will hear us and he will do something. But something needs to get done.
Right.
We can't always depend on the president. This is our country.
Right.
So we need to be the ones that are proactive. We need to help him as the leader of the free world, as a leader, the global leader of of the strongest and the best nation in the world. So it's up to us. It's up to
Yeah.
us. We put him in power. We also need to do the work.
Yep. So you love this country, don't you, Enrique? Tell me how much you
I
love America.
I love America more than a lot of things. But I do have a different view than I
Yeah.
did 3 years ago. I think us as human beings, we have our list of priorities, and the country has bumped down on my list. My priority list right now is God, because through Him all things are possible.
Amen.
Number two, my family, right? Um, Starting with my beautiful mother and my wife. Three is my tribe, right? And my tribe is my brotherhood, and my tribe are the Trump supporters, and my tribe are American citizens. right? Fourth, I put my country. I used to put God, family, country, but it's the people. It's it's not just the idea, because I see a lot of people, well, I like the idea of America. No, I love the American people, right? Because we make this country great. Even the people that we disagree with actually help us out a lot. And I actually want to thank them, because I'm sitting here today because of them. Their outrageous lies, the liberals' outrageous lies, and it's starting with people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. I have to thank those people because
Adam
I'm here
Schiff.
because of them. Adam Schiff, which called me a white nationalist on TV just the other day. Um, I'd suggest that he preserve all his documents because he might get sued for it.
I think
But
you should sue him.
but I do have to thank them, because they made the lie so outrageous and so crazy that even regular Americans were supporting the release of J6ers. So, but I do change the list of priority, because I put my tribe before I put my country, and my tribe is my countrymen before I put my country. And I think that I am willing to do anything for them. And
Well,
also, I think President Trump went from my tribe to my family after giving me my life back. So uh, I consider him like an uncle at this point.
when the pardons happened, what did that feel like to you? Like, where were you? Like, how did you find out? Like, what happened?
You mean when the actual pardon happened? Like when I was
Yeah.
pardoned? I didn't. My
Yes.
mood didn't change actually. Uh, my mood changed on election day, right? I started seeing. I went from black and white to seeing in color. But already at that point, I knew the president won. They didn't steal the election, and I'm going home. So I was already in a good mood from November, and nothing can break me down. I mean, they did transport me a lot in those last 2 months, but I didn't care. I didn't have a worry in the world. So when they came and they knocked on my door and they said, "Hey, pack your stuff," I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. I'm going home." I was already ready for it,
Yeah.
because I knew that we had a president that keeps his promises. And I
Okay.
knew that he was going to come through. And actually, he came through. A lot of people don't know this, and this is great. So obviously, he got inaugurated at noon. So everybody was waiting for him to get to the convention center at 5 p.m. so he could sign the pardons and all the executive orders. Well, the president did something. The president had already submitted the paperwork to the BOP before 1 p.m., so less than an hour. And I'm sure it took a little longer, so he did it even faster.
Hmm.
So we were already getting prepared for release by like 1 o'clock. They had already submitted the paperwork. So the president made this promise where he said, and I think maybe you remember it. He said, they said, "Well, are you going to pardon these people?" And he said, "Yes," in the first 9 minutes.
Yep.
And I think as soon as he left that Capitol Rotunda, he got Susie Wiles, and he's like, "Send the paperwork," and he did. So he did it a
Thank you,
lot faster than
President
I thought
Trump.
he was, and I was out. I was out pretty quickly.
Okay, so we are just about out of time, so I want to do a little speed round with you. I'm going to say a name, and I want you to say what you want to happen to them. Adam Schiff.
Prison. Do I go one word? Are we doing one word?
You could do
I want to make
three.
him. I want to make him broken in prison because he called me a white nationalist.
Okay, so that's good. Liz Cheney,
Prison.
Benny Johnson.
Long time in prison.
Let's see who else. Nancy Pelosi.
Listen, put her in a nursing home. I feel bad putting her in prison. You know.
Oh, I don't at
Yeah, I
all.
wouldn't either. I'm just kidding. But whatever. If there's a nursing home in prison, can we please put her in there?
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and if you do still have attorney bills, where they can donate to help you and your family dig out from everything that you've been put through.
So you can support my family. It's not just me support my family, because we did have a family business and we ran it together. You could go to tarriofamilyfund.org. And then you could follow me on two platforms. One is my main platform, and it's Twitter, and you
X.
newbies call it X. And you can follow me there at Noble One, and you have to spell out the one, Noble, ONE. The second platform, you could just search for me under Enrique Tarrio, and my handle is actually Tarrio Enrique. I don't know how to use it very well because I haven't had it in a long time. It's Instagram. I lost my Instagram in 2017, so I'm a couple years late. So I'm learning how to use it. So if I post like a boomer, please make fun of me. I will take it in stride. And those are the two places right now that you can follow me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, Enrique, and I wish nothing but the best for you, your family, and your brothers.
Well, Lori, thank you very much for having me on. And from my family, me and my mother, we tell you I love you.
Oh, love you guys too. Give her a hug for me.
I will. I give her a hug.
Okay.
I give her a million hugs, so I'll just attribute one to you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That is our show for this week. Please make sure you stay tuned. Next week, we've got a lot of surprises coming your way. See you later. And make sure to like and subscribe to our Rumble channel and follow me on X at Lori Mills, the number 4 CA 42. Bye-bye.